Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my Penjing Ficus benjamina here. I'll show you a couple of pictures of what it looked like in the last update. Basically what happened is it had grown far too tall, so I cut it down really hard, got back to the kind of the height that I wanted it at, and I put it in my grow box with high temperatures and high light levels, and it's just sprouted loads of new shoots all over. So I'll show you how bare it was in the last video and how much I'd cut off, and you'll see what a difference a couple of months have made. So I'm quite happy with the results. It's resprouted all over. It has resprouted more strongly on the younger branches than the older branches, but I do have some new ones further back, such as this one here, and also a couple of other ones further back, so that's giving me a few options for tying in and getting new branch structures set up. So it's done what I expected to do. So what happens when you hard cut a Ficus benjamina is it sends out very long thin stems, and the internodes between the leaves and the shoots are very long. So an internode is basically where a leaf is, or where a shoot can come out from, and you get a very long internode when you cut them hard. This is something I expected, so what I'm going to have to do is prune these all back, because what's going to happen is you're going to have these long internodes. It's not going to be in keeping with a bonsai style. With bonsai you want short internodes. That makes it look like a more compact, mature tree. These long internodes, it's just going to look really leggy and a bit unusual. So what I'm going to do on this is cut these back. There's some particularly long ones, such as this one here. I might thin out one or two if it's too many in one place, and I also need to wire in a few of these ones to get them going in a good position. So as I say, on the older branches there's been good regrowth, not a huge amount, but certainly a few new shoots, which is good. But around the side here, this younger shoot, this has had the most regrowth because it was much younger, you can see there. And this has actually thickened up substantially. This was quite a thin shoot just a couple of months ago, and the wires were already cutting in, so I need to redo the wires on these. The other wires are actually okay at the moment. I might just check that they're not too tight, but generally the other branches haven't thickened up much, so there's not much I have to do with those branches. I just have to make sure the wires aren't cutting in and that they're keeping them in the position I want. But certainly this one around here, with the amount that it's thickened up recently, it really does need to be loosened off. So I'll do that first of all. And the only other bit of work that needs doing on this branch is probably this slight bit of dieback here at the end, so I'm just going to trim that off. I'm going to be using scissors because these branches are so small that the secateurs aren't actually the best. Scissors are better with the very young, soft, flexible stems such as this. So I need to have a look, see which ones I want to keep, which ones I need to shorten. But one of the good things with Ficus benjaminas is when they put on the new shoot, and to be honest, with most shrubby plants or most hardy like woody plants, what you tend to get is when it first puts out a new shoot, it actually grows a very small little shoot right at the base, so just a few millimeters away from where the first shoots come out from. So that gives you a nice bit that you can cut back from, and it's always a nice short internode, so it's always only a couple of millimeters. And then the next internode after that is always a lot longer. So you get this with most plants. You can cut them quite close to the base as long as you leave a little bit of shoot, and they'll resprout quite rapidly. So that's always a handy thing to keep in mind. Now these, because they've grown quite long and it's quite a vigorous plant, these are probably going to start side shooting quite quickly. You can actually see on this one there's a couple of larger shoots. These are budding up, looking like they're going to actually start growing and branching naturally. But I don't want these quite as long, especially as it's just not quite in fitting with the style of the plant I'm wanting. This one, however, I'll probably keep quite long, because this stem at the back is coming off of where I cut a previous one, and that's a natural point to have a branch. Same with this one on the left, actually. So I will actually keep these two side branches a little bit longer, let them thicken up a bit more, and they should naturally branch themselves, hopefully. I'll just have to kind of bend them down, and that will just give a nice appearance there. But some of the other ones, such as this one here, or some of these very long ones like this one down here, which is incredibly long, I need to cut them right back, probably just to about the second internode. So that means I'll have this lowest internode should resprout, and the second one where I cut it to should also resprout. So I'm going to wire this in first, because when I start cutting them, I'm probably going to get a lot of sap everywhere. I haven't watered this for a few days, so the soil actually feels bone dry. That's just to make sure that there's less sap coming out. But I'm still going to put down some cardboard just in case, because sometimes the Ficus benjaminas can bleed a huge amount of latex sap and it just gets very messy. So because these stems are so thin, I'm going to have to be very careful. It's going to be incredibly easy for me to damage them or to snap them because they're very, very soft. They haven't basically lignified, so when trees grow, when the growth's very young, they don't have any lignin, and it's the lignin that really strengthens the tree and basically makes the wood. These are going to be the same as kind of like a tropical, some tropical plants or herbaceous plants, just very fleshy growth. There's not actually real wood in there, and it's not until the growth gets a little bit older that it starts to become woody. So it's going to be very flexible, so I'll be able to bend it quite easily, but because there's no lignin in there, it's also very fragile, so I have to be careful that I don't damage it. So most of these shoots are naturally actually cascading down quite nicely. Ficus benjamina, one of the other common names is weeping fig, because a lot of the branches do naturally weep down, especially when they're younger or they're at the extremities of the plant. They naturally grow down, but what happens is as they get older they thicken up and they actually start growing up. So I'll leave them like this for now, see if they stay weeping, but I suspect that by the next video I'll need to start wiring these lower ones because they're going to naturally start pulling up. But for now I'm quite happy with how they are, so I'm going to leave them. I'm just going to make them a bit shorter, try and get some shorter internodes on these plants. This will also encourage branching because I need some more side branching, because at the moment there's very long thin growths. It's the side branching I need to make it look a bit more natural, as a natural tree would appear with lots of side branches coming off. So I think that's about it for the pruning work I'm going to be doing on this bonsai for today. Now, cutting off all the end shoots, what it does is it encourages a lot more back budding. Basically, when a plant grows, it has hormones produced at the tips where the active growing shoot is, that then travels down the stem towards the roots. And any side buds that might want to grow stop from growing because of that hormone. Once you take away the growing tip, there's no more hormone coming down, therefore there's nothing suppressing the lower down shoots from growing, so you get all the dormant buds further back and all the younger shoots which are growing slowly, they're not being inhibited by the hormone anymore, so they'll start putting on some much stronger growth and they should grow and break, and we'll get a lot more back budding, which will give me more material to work with and also start making it look a little bit more branched. Now in the future what I need to do is actually make sure there's not any leaves right next to these smaller stems. What I might need to do is, for example, there's a couple here where there's some really thick stems and tiny branches coming out. I might need to let these grow particularly long. That's to thicken them up quickly, because I want it to look more natural with a thick stem slowly tapering to a thinner stem. If I have a sudden thin stem coming out of a thick stem, it just doesn't look too natural. You don't really see that much in the wild, so I might need to let a couple of these grow longer, get them quite large just to get that rapid thickening, and that will make a much nicer taper with the side shoots. But I'll make that decision in a few months' time when some of these shoots are starting to grow a bit more. At the moment I'm just wanting a few new shoots, so you can see for example this one back here, I've not trimmed it at all. This one I need to grow a lot more because there's nothing coming off this branch right until this lower down section, and I would like a couple of side branches to come out from here, so I need this to grow long and thicken up lots so I can get a nice firm side branch, and I can just kind of train that down when the time comes to it. So I think that's about it for this video. What I'm going to be doing in the next video, as I say, is maybe trying to get some of these to grow longer and thicken up, possibly thinning out one or two, because some of these areas are a little bit congested on this side, but generally it's not looking too bad. Also some of the tips as well, there's quite a few branches coming off and nothing from further back. I would like just one or two ones to come back from further back so I can thicken them up and make it come out and spread out a little bit more naturally. And I'll also need to maybe have a think about the roots. With this big giant tuber thing, I might have to cut that off and try and get the roots a bit more organised. It hasn't been root pruned since I planted this probably 3 or 4 years ago, so it definitely needs root pruning. And it would be good also to try and get some of these roots showing off a little bit more. And interestingly, this one's actually started to thicken up, a bit like the tuber effect, like the other roots have, which is something I quite like because I want to have giant big roots coming over a rock. That's the idea. And towards the back, that's happened quite nicely actually. You can see some bigger roots coming down the back there. So I don't mind it growing big kind of fat tuberous roots over the rock, but I certainly don't want them under the ground if it's going to cause issues with any of the landscaping features, such as little ponds or some of these little houses. And with this cacti, where I'd pruned it before, this send out several new shoots. Unfortunately, these new shoots are actually thicker and fatter than the lower down stems, so that's kind of detracting from that kind of miniature tree appearance. So I might have to sort this out at some point, maybe put a different plant in here. This cactus did look quite nice for a few years, but we'll see how this new growth comes, and if it doesn't start thickening up in these lower sections and it's thicker at the top than the bottom, I might need to replace that with a different cactus or a different small plant to make into a bonsai to give more of a small tree effect. So that's all for this video, and I'll see you guys in a few months when we'll be starting with the next lot of work with this Penjing.